give me a minute. This pad is not working, I think. Just wait for a few minutes. I think something happened with my writing pen. Okay, now I think it's fine. Okay, so let me share my screen first. Okay, so is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's start then. So first of all, if you remember that in the last session, we discussed about the continuity equation, and we arrived at an equation something like this. Okay, so this was our equation, delta rho by delta t plus, okay, so if you remember, delta by delta x of rho u plus delta by delta y of rho v plus delta by delta z of rho w is equal to 0. So we also took some special cases. So let's say we took the case of incompressible flow, then we took the case of steady flow. Okay. So here, like, few important things I would like to mention. So first of all, for a steady flow, we found out that this term, it will reduce to 0. And further, if the flow is incompressible, okay, then finally we arrived at this equation. Okay, delta u by delta x plus delta v by delta y plus delta w by delta z is equal to 0. So if a flow, it has to be incompressible, then the velocity field, it should satisfy this equation. Okay. Now today we will take up some numericals to understand this thing further. So let's take first numerical problem. So we have been given a velocity field which is represented by v vector is equal to 5x cube I cap minus 15 x square y, okay, j cap So is everything fine? Somebody send some message to chat box. Okay, so this was the relation 5 cube I cap minus 15 x square y j cap plus t k cap, correct? Now the question is, does this velocity vector or velocity field, does this velocity field represents a possible incompressible flow? Okay, so now let's go to the solution of this. Let's observe some interesting things. So first of all, just tell me, is this flow a steady flow? So the velocity given by this, so it's not a steady flow. So why it's not a steady flow? Because the velocity vector is dependent upon the time t. Now let me ask you, if this flow is compressible or incompressible, can we say anything by seeing the velocity vector equation that this flow will be compressible or incompressible? Can we conclude anything if we just see the velocity field and we don't know anything else? No, it's not possible to conclude anything about the compressibility or incompressibility of flow by just seeing the velocity vector. But let's say if I ask you whether this flow is uniform or non-uniform.
Sir, it would be non-uniform.
Non-uniform because the velocity vector, it is dependent upon the locations, let's say x, y, and as well as the z direction, right? So now let's see this, that how to find out whether this is going to represent a compressible or incompressible flow. So first of all, let us take the equation First of all, u is given as 5x cube. Then v is given as minus 15x square y. And w is given as what? T. So you can see here very clearly that the z direction of velocity component, it is dependent upon the time t. Now, just do one thing, just differentiate it. Okay, so first of all, we will take delta u by delta x. So it is 15x square. Then we will take delta v by delta y, because what we are going to do, we are going to substitute all these values into this equation, because we know that if the flow has to be compressible, or sorry, incompressible, then it must satisfy the equation delta u plus delta u divided by delta x plus delta v by delta y plus delta w by delta z is equal to 0. So now here it will be minus
15x.
30 xy, and finally delta w by delta z is equal to 0.
Sir,
So now
delta
let's
v
Sir,
by
minus 15
minus
x square.
square.
Sir,
I'm
x
sorry.
component.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sir, minus 15x.
I'm sorry. Okay, so it will be simply minus 15x square. Okay, I'm sorry. So this will be simply minus 15x square. Now, just put all these values into equation, then add them, delta u by delta x plus delta v by delta y plus delta w by delta z, and this is simply equal to 0. So that means, even though, very interesting thing here, see, even though the flow is unsteady, okay, even though the flow is unsteady, still we are finding out that this flow field can represent a possible case of incompressible flow. So I am going to mention very important thing here. So you will find this discussion only in this Som, Viswas and Chakravarti. Okay, the third edition of this. Okay, in the second edition, you will not find this discussion. So let me mention a very important thing here. So first of all, just tell me, for an incompressible flow, is it necessary that the density should be constant? Okay. So let me repeat my question. For an
No,
incompressible
sir.
flow, is it necessary that the density should be constant with respect to the space coordinates and with respect to time? No. Okay. So why? So then how can we say the density is
Mass
not
flow rate. Sir, the mass flow rate does not remain constant in incompressible fluid.
okay? So how can we then say that, okay, this will be an incompressible flow, even if the, let's say this density, it is changing with respect to time also, and it is changing with respect to space coordinates as well. Okay, and how are we going to conclude that this is an incompressible flow? So always remember that generally, if you go to the material of substantial derivative of any fluid property, so let's say you can write down d rho by dt in this way, delta rho by delta t plus, okay, here delta rho by delta x plus delta rho by delta y. I think here it will be u v, okay, plus w. Let me check this equation. Correct. So plus w delta rho by delta z. So you can write down any fluid property into this form, like we did for the acceleration vector, right? So very important thing here, very carefully observe that it may happen that this rho is changing with respect to time. This is also changing with respect to x. This is also changing with respect to y. This is also changing with respect to z. But if the changes, they are in such a way that these terms, okay, these terms, they cancel out each other. So the changes in the flow field are occurring in such a way that the change the terms delta rho by delta t, delta rho by delta x, delta rho by delta y, delta rho by delta z. Okay, so basically we can say the temporal change in density and the convective change in density. If both of them they are cancelling out each other, then we can say that this d rho by dt, okay, will be equal to 0. So that means local plus local and convective terms, you can say they are cancelling out each other. Okay. Then also this is a incompressible flow. Okay. So it is not necessary that your density, it should not vary with respect to time or with respect to the space coordinates. So this is very important thing. Then if you remember in the last session, if you remember, I said that the density rho is constant. So there I didn't made a differentiation because I didn't want to confuse all of you. Okay. But there I simply said that the density rho is constant for incompressible flow. Then we are observing here that right now at this moment I said that it can vary. Still it will represent a case of incompressible flow. So tell me the situation in which the density will be actually constant. Okay. So tell me a situation in which the density will be actually constant. For what kind of fluid, okay, the density will be actually constant. Right now we are seeing here the density is not constant, but there could be situation where this rho will become constant. That is, this rho is not going to change either with respect to time or with respect to space coordinates. This rho will become constant. So can anyone guess what could be that situation? See,
unsteady flow.
Unsteady flow, that we have already taken out through this equation. So we covered that if the flow is unsteady, that means if the density is changing with respect to time as well as with respect to the space coordinates. Okay, so still it can happen that d rho by dt is equal to 0, and that can represent a possible case of incompressible flow. But
sir, higher density fluids.
Form flow.
So for what kind of fluid? See, if you
Sir,
remember,
higher density fluids.
okay,
Yes, sir,
so
higher density.
Non-Newton, I think so.
see, now very important thing I am going to mention here. So till now I discuss with you for every type of flow, steady, unsteady, uniform, non-uniform. So every kind of flow till now I have discussed with you, but I have left a very important type of flow, which is compressible and incompressible flow. So we never discuss about this. So I think I left that for this moment. So this is the right time to discuss about compressible and incompressible flow. So see here. So the density rho, it can be practically constant if, do you remember this equation? EV is equal to
1 by kappa.
1 by kappa, okay, or K. So this is, you can say, bulk modulus of elasticity, bulk modulus of compressibility. K is bulk modulus of compressibility. This is equal to, just tell me, what was the relation?
Minus delta P upon delta V by V.
Okay. And if you take it in terms of density, then d rho by rho.
D rho by rho, yes, sir.
Okay. So it can happen that if we apply, let's say, very high pressure, but still we find that this term is very negligible, then we can call this fluid as incompressible fluid. So very important thing here, because this thing many times, even if you finish your engineering degree, nobody is going to tell you. Okay, so it leaves as a confusion in the mind of students. So make this thing very clear here. So the density rho, it is actually constant when, let's say, the fluid is incompressible. Okay, so in that case we can say that this density rho, it is actually constant. But can anyone tell me, in actual situations, can we say that this fluid is incompressible? In actual situations, it's ideally any fluid cannot be incompressible. So generally we consider a variation that, okay, if this fluctuation in density d rho by rho, okay, this is within some let's say like 5% or within 1% variation, then we declare that, okay, that flow is incompressible. So generally this density variation, but right now I'm stopping here. Okay, I will not go into very deep. So generally it depends upon the Mach number. So Mach number is what? Velocity of, okay, velocity of sound in a particular fluid divided by velocity of sound in, let's say, standard fluid. Okay, so I'm not going into very deep for this Mach number, but my intention was just to clear out the difference between a incompressible flow and a incompressible fluid. Okay, so is it clear to all of you? Is it clear to all of you? That means if somebody asks you that what do you mean by an incompressible fluid, then you should say that the bulk modulus for that, it will tend to what? It would tend to infinity, bulk modulus of elasticity, right? And the bulk modulus of compressibility for that will tend to 0. Okay, always remember this thing. Now, if somebody asks that, okay, what do you mean by incompressible flow? Then you should say that incompressible flow is the flow in which the material derivative, or you can say the substantial derivative, or you can say the total derivative of density will be 0. Okay, so always keep this thing in your mind.
Sir, higher the density, higher will be the Mach number, no, sir?
See, this is a kind of like different philosophy. So right now, I think just keep this thing in mind, because Mach number is something a different concept. So I don't want to go into very deep into this one. Okay, so basically Mach number, it will depend upon the velocity of sound. So many other factors also are considered when you calculate Mach number, such as, let's say, you can say the rarefaction. You have heard about, let's say, when sound travels to our ears. So do you know why are we able to listen the, like, let's say, sound? Can anyone tell me? So
Yes,
this
sir.
is
Series of compression of a series of compression and rarefaction of air molecules.
right. So
Yeah,
so
in the eardrum.
okay, so very good. So what happens, like these molecules, they are compressed and then rarefied, then further compressed and then further rarefied. So the sound is basically an energy that basically travels through the compression and rarefaction of what? Of the molecules in the air. So this energy, these molecules, they reaches our eardrum. Okay, and when they strike our eardrum, then we are able to listen the sound. So basically the Mach number, it is the velocity of sound in that particular fluid. So higher density, now you can imagine if the density is very high, so the molecules are very close to each other. So the Mach number will be the Mach number that is proportional to the velocity of sound in fluid. So that means simply for higher density, what will happen? The sound will travel at a faster rate. So you can say the Mach number is going to increase, right? So, but there are many things here that, let's say, like supersonic flow, then sonic flow, then hypersonic, but I am not going into very deep for that. Okay. So let's take one more numerical problem to understand this further. So the goal of this numerical problem was just to tell you that even if the flow is unsteady, it can represent a possible case of incompressible flow. So let me take one more numerical to make this thing very clear. Okay, so let us take one more flow field, that is U is equal to xt square and V is equal to xyt plus y square. Okay, so now for this, just try to solve this and just tell me whether it is a compressible or incompressible flow. Just try to solve this.
Sir, compressible flow.
Compressible.
Is a compressible flow. So very
Yes,
good.
sir.
So here
Compressible.
we can say that if you simply take, so this is just two dimensions. So delta u by delta x plus delta v by delta y. Okay, delta y, that is equal to, simply if you solve this, it will not be equal to 0. Okay, and this whole term, so if this is the situation, then we can say that incompressible flow is not possible. Okay, so see, don't means you can simply say that okay, incompressible flow is not possible, but don't try to actually generalize it. Let's say don't directly say that it will be compressible or something like that, but just say that okay, the incompressible flow is not possible, right? So now let's move to another topic, very important topic. Now I'm leaving it here. The numerical problems of continuity equation are very easier to solve. Okay. Now let's move to very important topic. So see, this is the heart of fluid mechanics. So I want all of you to be very focused on this topic. So till now we talked about, okay, steady, unsteady flow, okay, many things, but we never discuss. Okay, we talked about steady, unsteady, uniform, non-uniform, compressible, incompressible flow. But see, during the discussion of all these type of flow, we never discussed about the forces. Okay, we said okay, I don't care whatever the forces that are going to cause the motion. We are just here, we are just curious about this thing, that okay, how the velocity field is defined, how the acceleration field is defined, but we never talked about the forces that are causing this motion. So now I will take you to a new topic, so that is fluid kinetics, very important. So we know that the dynamics, fluid dynamics, it simply has two branches. One is kinematics, another is kinetics. So in kinematics, we consider the motion. In kinetics, we consider the motion as well as the forces. So very important thing here. So fluid kinetics, and simply in many books, you will find simply call this as fluid dynamics. Okay. So just don't get confused. Okay. So sometimes this is a more specific definition of, let's say, fluid dynamics, fluid kinetics, and then kinematics. Now coming to this thing here, so I am going to first of all take a very important equation that is called as Euler's equation of motion. So I am going to take very important equation, okay, which is called as Euler equations of motion. So now what is this? So Euler equation of motion, in short, let's say, let me call it as EEM. So Euler equation of motion is an equation, okay, that relates very easily, you can see, that relates the velocity field and pressure field. Now, very important thing I'm going to mention here, right? Pressure field of an ideal fluid, or you can say, or inviscid fluid. So many books you will find different terminology. Somewhere you will find people will say it as ideal fluid. Somewhere people will say it as inviscid fluid. Now, always remember, first of all, what is the purpose of a Euler equation? It is to relate the velocity and pressure, velocity field and pressure field for an ideal fluid or inviscid fluid flow. Now, what is an ideal or inviscid fluid? Now, very important thing here, that an ideal or inviscid fluid, it simply means that the viscosity, very important here, viscosity of the fluid
Will be 0.
Yeah, very good. So viscosity of the fluid is 0. So what just happened? What just happened? That means if the viscosity of fluid is 0, so what we are saying here, that the very important
Resistance offered will be
internal
not there.
resistance, or you can
Zero.
say,
Internal resistance zero.
the shear stress, that is zero. So first of all, I said to you that we are going to consider the forces, but here very important thing, we actually right now for simplification we can say that okay, many engine fluids, they represent a ideal fluid flow, okay, where the viscosity of fluid is zero. So there they behave that in such a way that they are moving very smoothly. That means the fluid layers, they are moving relative to each other very smoothly, or in a very simple words you can say the flow is very smooth. Okay, so I
Sir,
will, yeah,
can we say that it is laminar flow?
I will come to laminar and turbulent later on. Okay, you can say this is laminar flow. Okay, but laminar flow can be viscous also. Okay, here I am not saying anything about the viscosity of fluid. I am directly saying the viscosity of fluid is zero. Okay, but laminar flow can be viscous. Okay,
Sir,
but
sir, in reality, viscosity is zero, no? Means of superfluid.
I'm coming to that. See, so it can happen that I said many engine fluids. What I just said that the flow, if you see the water flowing over the surface of a road, let's say uh, if you let's say like drop a bucket of water over the surface of road, so you will observe for some time that the flow of water is very smooth over the road surface. Okay, so you can say that the internal resistance among the layers of water is almost negligible. So internal resistance is negligible, that means viscosity of water is almost negligible. But I am going to mention very important thing here. Okay, we will discuss this thing in more detail later on, but right now this situation let me mention is, so this is, let's say, my road surface. Okay, and okay, this is my road surface, and here the water is flowing, right? So it can happen that the water which is in vicinity to this closed surface, what my point, the water which is in vicinity to this closed surface, those water layer or those water molecules will stick to this road surface. So here you will observe that shear stresses, they are being set up between the elements of water. But now let me take a fluid layer which is very far distance from this road surface. So let me take a fluid layers which are very far from the road surface. Okay. So now you can see here that the motion of water layers will be very smooth. You will find that this water layer, or let's say this fluid element, okay, it is sliding very smoothly over the next fluid element. That means you will find the internal resistance if you go very far from the road surface, that is almost negligible, almost zero. So there you can say, always remember, when you go very far from, let's say, a fluid which is, let's say, flowing over a flat surface, or water flowing over the surface of a road. So if you go very far from this flat surface, right, then you can say that the flow is an ideal flow. Okay, or you can say the flow is, let's say, without any viscosity. Viscosity is there, is almost negligible, or you can say the shear stress or internal resistance there is almost negligible. So this is called something as boundary layer. So we will come to this later on. Now move on to our let's say Euler equation of motion. Now let me derive this. So first of all, another very important thing, that I am going to follow a control mass system approach here. So never get confused. Okay, never get confused when I say this. Okay, so if you remember our continuity equation, so there are two ways to derive the continuity equation as well. You can either follow the control mass system approach, or you can follow the control volume system approach. So in the last session, if you remember, when I derived the continuity equation, which approach I followed? I followed the what? Can anyone tell me which approach I followed in the last session?
Control volume.
Control volume.
Very good. So in the last session, I followed the
Control.
control volume approach, right? So now in this, I am going to follow the control mass system approach. So Euler equation you can derive by the control volume system approach as well. But let me take the control mass system approach. Why I am going to do this? I will come to this later. Okay, why? What is the reason behind that? So first of all, let me again assume a Eulerian coordinate system. Okay, or in this case, now in this case, just tell me that control mass system. That means we are basically taking a Lagrangian approach, right? But I told you that the Eulerian and Lagrangian approach, they can be okay represented with the common coordinate system. Okay, so you can represent a Lagrangian approach through Eulerian coordinate system as well. So if you remember in one of the sessions I discussed this, how these two are related. Okay, so now this is a Lagrangian approach, but again we will represent everything through a Eulerian coordinate system. So make it very clearful. Okay, don't get confused into this one. Okay, so now first of all, let me take a parallelopipe element here. Let me take a parallelopipe element here, and now this parallelopipe element, the mass of this parallelopipe element is constant. Always remember, but this boundary can change. Okay, but the mass within this parallelopipe is constant, right? Now there is no flow of mass across the boundary of this one. Now in the control mass system approach, first of all we considered a parallelopipe. Then let us take the coordinate here, x, then this is y, and then this is z. Okay, so now first of all, my goal, what is my goal? See, what I want to do, I just want to apply the Newton's second law of motion. This is my objective. Okay, this is my objective, that I just want to apply the Newton's second law of motion onto this control mass system. So why I considered a control mass system? Now it is very clear that if you remember, we define any law of physics, Newton's second law, law of conservation of mass, momentum, energy for a system. We never define it for a control volume. In case of fluid mechanics, though they will become interrelated, okay, but generally, in general, all the law of physics are defined for a closed system, or let's say a particle, okay, or let's say a particular object. So that object, it always has a fixed mass. So that's why I'm taking a control mass system approach here. So this is my goal, to apply the Newton's second law of motion. So the Newton's second law of motion says that the external force acting on a body, this is equal to what? Tell me. The external force
into acceleration.
Mass into acceleration. Now let us take the x direction. Let us take the x direction. Okay, and let us derive the Euler equation of motion in the x direction. Okay, so first of all, tell me the external forces, okay, acting onto this control mass system. What are the external forces that are going to act onto this control mass system? Okay, so see here very carefully. So first of all, a pressure is going to, okay, let me first mention this one also, dx, then this is your dy, and then this is your dj. So first of all, the pressure, it is going to act onto this plane, okay, the plane which is perpendicular to x-axis. So always remember this definition. Many times you will found out this definition in many books. So x plane means plane perpendicular to x-axis. Y plane means plane perpendicular to y-axis. Okay. So first of all, let us come to this plane. Okay. So on this plane, we know that pressure, let's say, let me define this pressure as P. So on this plane, the pressure P is acting, right? Now, what about this plane? What will be the pressure here? Again, we are going to observe the variation of this pressure P along the x direction, right? So just tell me, what will be the pressure on this plane? This one. Okay. See here, we have to again represent this thing in terms of differential. Okay, so just tell me, very easy.
Rho del P by del
Del,
X.
del P by del X.
Okay, so P plus delta P by delta X into
Multiply
dx.
by X.
Okay, so here the pressure force will be simply P plus delta P by delta X into dx. Okay, so on this plane you have this pressure. On this plane you have the pressure as P. Okay, now you always remember this thing, that this pressure P on this parallel pipe, okay, this is going to, let's say on this side also you will say, on this plane, this one, you can say the pressure is P. So on this plane it will be P plus delta P by delta Z into dz. So in a similar way you can represent for all the phases. But right now let's talk about the x direction only. So now just tell me, what is the external force that is going to act onto this? So P, okay, multiplied by into, just tell me, multiplied by, this is dy
dy to dz.
dy dz.
P dy dz.
by dz minus, okay, again P plus delta P by delta X, okay,
dx.
into dx multiplied by again dy.
dy dz.
So very important thing I want to mention here. Many times people take it in the reverse way. Okay, that is they take this term here positive and make this minus. Never do this, because when you apply the Newton's second law of motion, the sign conventions, they matter a lot, right? So x, because let's say if you take this as positive, this is as negative, then it could be happen that the mass is accelerating or decelerating. Then you have to take a proper sign convention on the right hand side. So always remember that, always take the sign conventions. Let's say the force which came first, then the force which came later on. So that means if you go to this, okay, so we are taking the forces that are acting in the plus x direction as positive, and the forces which are acting in the minus x direction as negative, nothing else. Okay, so now this is the surface force, very important here. So this is the surface force, that is force which is acting through the surface of this controlled mass system. Now just tell me one more important thing, will there be any other force also besides this surface force?
Body force.
Very good. So now we are taking the body force as well. So let's say for body force I said that x is the body force. So if you remember when I derived the hydrostatic equation, so in a way we are doing the same thing here. So body force per unit mass in the x direction. So now the body force in per unit mass in the x direction. Okay, now very easy here. So it will be simply rho multiplied by x. Anything else which should come here?
Sir, A means yz.
So this is body force per unit mass. So this is x, and if you have to calculate the total body force, then this should be xx multiplied by total mass. So what is the total mass here? So mass is density into volume, right? So just tell me what should be the next term here? Rho xx multiplied by
dz.
X y z.
ex
dy dz.
correct? So now this is my external force into x direction. Now this external force, if you solve this, it will become equal to, okay, minus delta P by delta x, right? Okay, so this is going to cancel out into dx dy dz, okay, plus rho xx dx dy dz. Okay. So this is a net force that is going to act in the x direction. Now this force, if you apply the Newton's law, very important, then this force, it should become equal to mass into acceleration in x direction. Very important here. So mass into acceleration into x direction, that means max is equal to minus delta P by delta x plus rho xx. Okay, then you have to take this dx dy dz as common. Okay, now this mass, it's very easy that we are taking the density of fluid Okay, within that control mass system as rho. So you can see this mass as okay rho. Then again dx, dy, dz. Okay, multiplied by ax, right? So minus delta p by delta x plus rho x multiplied by. Now it's very easy to guess here that this two are going to cancel out. Okay, and finally you will have an equation like this, that is rho. Now just take this x in the form of velocity vector, right? So this will be simply rho, and ax is du by dt. Okay, this is equal to minus simple is now minus delta p by delta x plus rho xx, rho xx. So it will be simply du by dt is minus 1 by rho delta p by delta x plus xx. So this is the Euler equation of motion into x direction. Now what about y direction?
Sir, minus one. Okay, sir.
Just tell me, what about y direction? See, you have
Sir,
to.
So del x will be del y and xx will be yy.
So it will be dv by dt
dv by dt equals to
minus 1
by rho
delta
del,
delta y plus
yes plus y
x.
xy. Sorry.
Correct. Now similarly for z direction, this is very important. The z direction is always important. Okay. Why? Because can anyone tell me why I am saying this? The z direction.
Sir, weight force will act mg.
Because the gravity force is present in the z direction. Okay. So again, it is minus 1 by rho. Okay. And here it will be delta p by delta y. So later on we will take this gravity term plus xz. Okay. So this is the Euler equation of motion in x direction.
So
Then
delta p by delta z or delta p by delta y.
delta z, right? And this is the equation of motion in y direction, and this is the equation of motion in z direction. Very easy. Now just tell me, if I write down into this way, okay, let's say if I write down into this way, okay, so okay. Okay, can anyone tell me how to represent this into vector form? So see, always I insist to write each and everything in vector form, because in the end we have to know. In the end we should know that how to even write down into vector form. So if I have to write down in vector form, then how can I write it down? Can anyone tell? So I have to write down in vector form. So see, for vector form, always remember when you have to write out down something in vector form, then just write down all the equations which you have. So this is ui cap. So the vector equations which you have. So v vector is equal to ui cap plus vj cap plus w k cap. Okay. Now p is nothing. P is your scalar quantity. But again, we can say okay, p I cap plus p j cap plus p k cap. Something like this we can say. Okay, because the pressure P is equal in all directions. So it is basically minus of this. Okay. Anything else? X vector is also there. So it is x xx I cap plus x y j cap plus xz k cap. Now just tell me how to write down into this vector form. Any guesses? Very
Sir,
easy.
Sir, dv by dt dv vector by dt equals to minus
is equal to minus
1 by
1
rho
by rho. Very good. Very good.
dp by dx.
So dp by dx. See, now I am taking it everything in a vector form. Remember this thing. So in a vector form, these all the equations, all the three equations, they are going to combine themselves to a single equation only. So now it will be very easy here. See here, write down one more term. Okay, that is your delta. So this is delta by delta x, okay, plus delta by delta y plus delta by delta z. Okay. So you can say here, since both are scalar, so you can write down this way also. Okay. So it's very easy here. So now you can say minus rho delta dot p or delta p simply. Okay. Plus. Okay. Now this is what your x vector. So this is your equation in vectorial form. It's very easy. Okay. So now this is your equation in vectorial form. And now if let's say you want to write down the Euler equation of motion. So this is your Euler equation of motion. Okay. All these three equations together, they represent your Euler equation of motion. Okay. Always remember this thing. But now, very important thing I am going to mention here, that I am not saying that this equation will hold valid for a real fluid. This is valid only for an ideal fluid, but in many situations, we assume, in many actual situations as well, we assume that, okay, the flow of a particular fluid, let's say the flow of a fluid at a very far distance from a flat surface is very smooth. We don't find any internal resistance there, any shear stress there. The flow of like water layers is all, let's say, any fluid, so which is very far from a, let's say, surface, okay, or something like that. So it's very smooth without any internal resistance. So we can assume the viscosity is there, is almost effect of viscosity, it can be neglected there, okay, and in that case it will represent an ideal or inviscid flow. So always remember this thing, that this Euler equation of motion, it holds to only for any inviscid flow, but it doesn't care about whether the flow is steady, unsteady, uniform, non-uniform. Okay, it takes everything into account, right? Only factor is that the flow, it has to be inviscid flow. Always keep this thing in mind. Now let's talk about a very important equation here. So you might have heard about this equation many times, but now let's see it. Now let's see it. See it from the perspective of, let's say, fluid flow. So Bernoulli's equation of motion, okay, or Bernoulli's principle. Many times you might have heard about this. Okay, so let me take you. First of all, let me define what is a Bernoulli equation, right? So
equals to half rho v square.
Bernoulli's equation simply states this. It simply states that just wait for a few minutes. So let me, I check. I don't know whether the presentation got saved. It will be very bad luck for us if it is not saved.
So can we take a 5 minutes break until then?
It's fine. I think the presentation is lost. Okay, but it's still no problem. You have the video recording, so you can check out there. Okay, so now let me take. Don't worry, I am like just going to take 15 minutes more, and that's it. That's it. After that, you can leave. So I'm very sorry. The presentation actually got lost. No problem. You have the video recording. You can check out from there. So now Okay. So now let's talk about Bernoulli's equation. Okay. So now, what do you mean by Bernoulli's equation? So Bernoulli's equation simply states that the
Sir, can you share the screen?
screen is not shared.
No, sir.
A really very bad thing happened. Unnecessarily, so much content was lost. Okay. So the Bernoulli equation simply says that the mechanical energy, okay, along a streamline in a fluid flow is constant. Okay, it's very simple definition, or let's say very simple statement of Bernoulli's equation. Okay. So it states that the mechanical energy along a streamline in a fluid flow is constant. So if you observe here that now we are talking about forces, now we are talking about energy. Till now we never talked about forces, energy. Till now we were limited only to the velocity field, acceleration field. So this is the difference between kinematics and kinetics. So now we are talking about energy. So now the mechanical energy along a streamline in a fluid flow is constant. So this is the Bernoulli's principle. Now let us derive the Bernoulli's equation. Okay. So for Bernoulli's equation, very important, since we are talking about the streamline, so we will basically derive the Euler equation. We are going to derive the Euler equation of motion along a streamline. So it's very easy, very easy. No need to think too much. So this is simply Euler equation of motion along a streamline. So let's say we have a fluid flow. We have a fluid flow, and this is my streamline. And let's say we have 2 points here, 1 and 2. Okay. So generally, we can say the mechanical energy along a streamline in a fluid flow is constant. So we can say that the mechanical energy at this point and this point, they are going to remain the same. Okay, at points 1 and 2. So let us find out the Euler equation of motion along a streamline first. So first of all, let us consider element here. So let us consider an element here, and let me take, okay, the length of this element as ds, right? And the height of this element as, we take it as dj. So this is your dj, right? Okay, now if you remember in the Euler equation, okay, the left hand side was simply the left hand side. Let us talk about the left hand side. It was simply what? dv vector by dt. Okay, so if you take this dv vector along a particular direction, so let's say this is the element. Okay, we have considered a fluid element here, and this element is in the direction of, let's say, so you can imagine this thing of that, okay, we have taken a streamline into a controlled mass system only. So this is my streamline, and this is the direction of what? V vector at this point. Okay, and this is the direction of ds vector as well. Okay, and now this is a small fluid element which is enclosing this point P. Now very easy here. So it will be simply dv vector while dt will be delta v by delta s, delta t, okay, delta v by delta t plus delta v by delta s into ds. Very easy. Okay, now I am interested into the right hand side. Okay, so left hand side, you have simply one direction we have taken. Okay, that is the direction, let's say S vector, and we are simply writing down it as delta V by delta T plus delta V by delta S into ds. So this is your dV vector by dt. But what about the right hand side? So what is actually right hand side? Right hand side is nothing. Sorry. Right hand side is nothing. Forces per unit mass. If you go to your Euler equation, okay, then you will find that right hand side is nothing. This is simply the forces per unit mass. So just tell me, what are the forces that are going to act into this element? Okay. So first of all, again, you have the pressure P. Okay. So let us say that this element here, the cross-sectional area is dA. Okay. So just tell me, what are the forces on right hand side? Anyone?
Forces on right hand side means
Sorry, the surface forces on this element. So if you remember Euler equation, so Euler equation is nothing. In the Euler equation, if you remember that I took du by dt, let's say for the x coordinate, minus 1 by rho delta p by delta x plus xs. So what was this? This was simply surface force per unit mass, right? And this was body force per unit mass. Okay. So now I am talking everything in context to a streamline. That means we are taking the motion of fluid along this streamline. Okay. So we have to now calculate for the right hand side, let's say the right hand side of this equation, the forces per unit mass. So now just tell me, what are the forces per unit mass that are going to act onto this element? Very easy, just tell me. First of all, this is the pressure P. Okay, that is going to act onto this cross section of, okay, element. So it will be
PDA.
PdA minus, now here on this side it is simply P by delta S into ds, right? Minus P plus delta P by delta S into ds.
DS.
Okay. Now very important thing here. Now tell me something about the body force. So now see here. So now here the only body force that I am going to consider is what? The only body force that I am going to consider is gravity force. And we have nothing else. So gravity here, it is equal to rho. Okay. Now what is the volume of this element? That is dA into ds. So this is the mass multiplied by g. Okay. So this is the net gravity force that is acting onto that element. Now just tell me very quickly that what will be the gravity force then along the streamline. So let me take this angle as alpha. Okay. So just tell me.
Cos alpha.
Okay. So it will be simply minus, okay, see, this is rho dA ds into g. Okay. Now you are resolving this. So one component will be perpendicular, another component will be, okay, parallel. And this will be equal to how much? Rho g dA into ds. Okay. So it will be simply minus rho g dA into ds, right? Now it will, this whole equation will reduce to, right hand side will be reducing to RHS is equal to, okay, minus delta P by delta S into ds, okay, minus rho g, okay. So I am sorry, I think here dA term will also be there. So dA into ds minus rho g dA ds, here it is cos alpha. dA into ds cos alpha. Now, if you observe here, so I'm now going to take the simple trigonometry. So this is alpha, then if you construct a right angle triangle here, okay, so it will be simply, this will be alpha, this is your simply dz, and this is your ds. Okay. So dz is nothing. Always remember dz. Let's say if I take a point here and a point here, so dz is the difference in height between these 2 points, right? Always remember this thing. So this is nothing. So now this is cos alpha is equal to what I have taken, ds by dz. So
Sir, cos alpha or tan alpha?
I'm sorry, let me check it. I'm sorry. So what mistake I did? I'm representing this as ds. This is not true. So this is your triangle, right? So this is your dz, this is your ds. I'm sorry. Correct? Now cos alpha is equal to simply dz divided by ds. So right hand side will be simply minus delta pi delta s into dA. Okay. ds minus rho g. Okay, this is dA dj. Okay. So anything else which I am missing here? Just now tell me. Anything else which I am missing here?
Body forces, sir.
Body force is there, that is gravity. Now I have the surface force as well, but what is missing? So right hand side is what I said, forces per unit mass, right? So what I am missing here, the mass of element. So this whole term will be divided by the mass of element, that is rho multiplied by dA into. So your right hand side will be simply minus delta pi delta s, okay, minus rho g, okay, and then simply dA will cancel out, and rho will cancel out. Sorry, rho will cancel out. It is simply dz by ds. So the final equation of motion for a streamline is simply delta v by delta t plus v delta v by delta s. Okay. That is equal to minus delta p by delta s minus g dz by
Sir,
ds.
can we replace dz by ds by cos alpha?
Now coming to your question. So what you are saying?
So just replacing dz by ds back to cos alpha.
No, not required, because we are going to actually derive Bernoulli equation. So we are talking about the equation of motion along a streamline. So a streamline is basically, if you see the element, there I took 2 coordinates. One is streamline is represented by this length ds. Another it is represented, let's say we have 2 points, 1 and 2. So the difference in height is represented by dz. So basically to derive the Euler equation of motion along a streamline, we are concerned only with 2 coordinates. One is along the streamline, that is ds vector. Another we are concerned about this dz. So why are we concerned about dz? Because the body force is acting along the z direction, right? And why are we concerned about ds? Because the flow is along the streamline, along the s vector, right? So now this is we are writing down everything into terms of s and z. So this is Euler equation of motion along a streamline. Okay. So right now, okay, just keep this thing in mind. Then we will take the Bernoulli's equation in the, I think, next session. I think you will all will become confused otherwise. Okay. So till now, always remember this is the Euler equation of streamline. Okay, Euler equation of motion along a streamline. Motion along a streamline, and this is also true for a inviscid fluid flow. Always remember this thing. Okay. Now coming to one more important point here. Again, this is true for any kind of steady, unsteady, compressible, incompressible, okay, any kind of flow. So only criteria is that the flow has to be inviscid. Okay. Now for Bernoulli's equation we will take up in the next session. Then we will see. Okay. So till now, any doubt into this one?
No, sir.
Everything clear? Anyone? Any doubt? Okay.
Sir,
So
sir,
yeah.
sir, why are we only considering the this element on the streamline? Sir, why are we only considering the pressure from the both opposite ends and not from the adjacent ends?
Since we are concerned about the this direction, ds direction, see, so along the x direction only these two forces are acting, that is pp. If you are concerned about this direction, let's say this is I am taking as z direction, right? Or then you will be concerned about these forces as well. But right now we are just concerned about the forces that are acting along the streamline. So these pressure forces, these are the pressure forces which are acting along the streamline, right? But you can form a similar equation for a direction which is perpendicular to the streamline as well. But right now I am taking along the streamline, and why I am taking along the streamline? Because I am interested in finding out the mechanical energy along the streamline. Okay, so I am interested to find out this Bernoulli's equation, which states that mechanical energy along the streamline is constant. So that's why I am taking everything. I am considering the forces, the motion, everything along the streamline only. Okay. Anything else?
Oh no, no, sir.
Okay. So one more important thing here. Even you can derive the Bernoulli's equation using the Euler equation of motion. Let's say the three equations for x, y, and z direction, which I wrote down. So you will find this derivation in Som and Vishwas. Okay. I think in the third edition also this is given. So you can have a look at that also. That means you can find out this relation delta v by delta s. Okay, by simply using the Euler equation of motion in x, y, and z direction as well. Okay, so this is one point. So this you have to see. This is provided in the second and third edition, both I think. Okay, there you can see how they have derived actually using the Euler equation in all the three coordinates. See, because all the three coordinates are what? X, Y, Z, and this S vector is nothing. If you take if you talk of, let's say, like a two-dimensional coordinate system, then this X vector is what? This is simply what? X I cap plus Y j cap plus z k cap. If you, let's say, talk of a three-dimensional coordinate system. Now, if you sum all these three equations, okay, in X, Y, and Z coordinate, the Euler equations, then you will get this relation as well. So you can see that derivation yourself. And one more important point, can you find out this using a control volume system approach? So let me, like this is my last discussion. After this, I will end. So just tell me this thing, that if, let's say, I am, instead of taking a control system, I am taking a control volume. So now tell me. So if you have to proceed for control volume, then how are you going to do it? Just tell me quickly. How are you going to do it for a control volume?
Sir, the forces will be per unit volume.
Yes.
Forces per unit volume. Anything
Yes,
else? See, right
Sir,
now,
net range, sir, change in mass. We can go by change in mass.
very good.
dm equals to rho dv. Means
Right now your mass is changing. That is the flow here. It is changing. So very important here. If you remember that the Newton's second law, it also says that the external force acting on a, on a mass, or let's say on a particle, that is also equal to rate of change of momentum, d
yes.
by dt of what?
B rho mb.
So here, see here. Now here the mass entering and leaving, they are different, right? The mass of the system not fixed. So here we basically apply the concept of momentum, rate of change of momentum. So the momentum at this plane, this is simply mass into what? Mass into velocity. So mass is rho into, let's say, dy dz, into velocity is what? Your u. So this is rho u dy dz, and here it will be rho u dy dz. Okay, sorry, rho u dy dz plus delta by delta x of rho u, okay, dy dz into
dx.
Very easy. So net momentum is this minus this, and this should be equal to external. Okay. So finally you will get the same equation. So this is the controlled volume system approach. This is also provided in Soam and Vishwas. So I would like you, all of you, to like go through this controlled volume approach as well. Then only you can understand what is going on. And this equation is very important. Euler equation of motion. This is the heart of fluid mechanics. Okay. Always remember. So I never want all of you to miss any concept into this equation. You should know each and everything: pressure, force, body force. Okay. Now you can use this Euler equation of motion to derive the hydrostatic equation also. Delta P by delta Z is equal to minus rho XX. If you remember. So for fluid at rest, this delta U dU by dW by dt, that will become equal to 0, as well as that convective term. Okay, that is also going to be 0. So dW by dt will become equal to 0, and the right hand side is what? Minus rho 1 by rho delta P by delta X plus rho XX. So you can find out the hydrostatic equation as well from the Euler equation. So the hydrostatic equation, then the controlled mass system approach, then the controlled volume system approach, then you come to the Bernoulli's equation, that is equation of motion along a streamline. These four are very important concepts which you have to keep into your mind. Okay. So okay, right now then I am going to end the meeting.